Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dr. Doctor, the show where no topic is too hot or too cold. Whether it's politics, religion, relationships, entertainment, or everyday life, you will be hearing from the experts. This show is not for the faint of heart or the faint of mind. But if you want to be inspired, you have come to the right place. And now, prepare to be enlightened as we introduce the host of Dr. Doctor, Dr. Peter Tassi, and his close advisor, Dr. Fooch.
Welcome back to Dr. Doctor. And today we have Junior with us again today. What a blessing that is. Another visit from Junior and his intellectual and general knowledge of the world and the way things are going. And so it's a great gift to have him back. Welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about the Green New Deal. You know me by now. You know how I think, and a lot of my guests think, especially Junior, about how just crazy the Liberals have become and insane with a lot of their policies and their absolute obsession and hate for a man by the name of Donald J. Trump. I call him great, the greatest of all times in terms of presidents. But anyway, that's not our topic today. Our topic today is the Green New Deal and the socialist agenda of the Liberals and Democrats, how they are hell-bent on destroying the Western economy through these cockamamie, convoluted, absolutely insane ideas. So Junior, welcome. And the Green New Deal, let's talk about that. What is the budget for this Green New Deal?
Well, the latest figure I heard was about $91 trillion.
91 trillion.
Which,
Pocket change.
yeah, I mean, that's not billion, it's trillion. The GDP of the U.S. for the whole year, the whole country is only 23 trillion. So, I mean, it's just, the cost of it is just insane.
It's insane.
And a lot of it is not even technically... You can't do it. The technology's not there to do what they want to do. So it's really Alice in Wonderland. It's really fairy tale, crazy stuff that, you would expect that a child to make this stuff up. You wouldn't think any grown adult would actually believe that any of this stuff can actually be implemented. But that's, like you say, that's the new liberal.
Yeah. Now, the conservative estimates I've heard... what you said, 92 trillion is the cost of this Green New Deal as they laid it out, what they want to see done to society. But the conservative estimates are still 50 to 55 trillion. And you said the GDP of the states is...
About 23 trillion, which is the biggest economy in the world.
And that's the biggest economy in the world, yeah.
I mean, they're already in debt, they're in debt, their debt is about 23 trillion, the same as their GDP, and their deficit's about $1 trillion, which is the difference between what they owe and what they're actually paying. So They have to pay interest on that $1 trillion to bankers and that. So you can imagine the combination of their Green Deal and their Medicare for everybody, about 145 trillion.
Yes, Medicare for everybody and the Green New Deal.
You could
together.
Imagine the deficit.
145 trillion. Yeah.
You could imagine the deficit that they would be running. It would be just astronomical.
Yes.
Basically, the American greenback wouldn't be worth anything. It's like these countries where you see the inflation's gone, like Venezuela and places like this. It's basically because they've printed too much money. The money becomes worthless.
Right.
This is what would happen to the American greenback.
Yes.
Which today still is the world standard for currency.
Right, right.
The Green Deal, the healthcare thing would completely destroy it.
Yes.
It would
yes.
destroy the economy, not just that, the economy, everything. I mean, just insane when you think about it.
Now, if you take, let's say we're looking at Green New Deal and healthcare, about 140 trillion. How much money is there in the world? Is there 140 trillion dollars in the world?
Well, that's a good question, if that even exists.
Yeah.
But, you know, their solution for everything is just print money.
Print money.
It's always been their solution.
Yes. Print
You know,
more.
grow another tree, you know, money grows on tree. They'll just grow another. So the thing is, like I just said, the problem with that is when you start flooding with money, you devalue your dollar. You
Right.
devalue your currency. That's why these countries like Venezuela, the inflation goes up 2, 3, 4,000%.
Right.
Because their money's not worth anything anymore.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's all based on what you're worth, you know, what your goods and services, what you're worth. But it's so crazy. It's just to be laughed at.
Yeah.
I don't even think deep down I think they know.
Oh, you do.
Oh yes, they can't be that crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you know, it's like I told you before. People, wrestling, for instance, you know, it used to be sort of so-so, and then the more ridiculous it got, the more people liked it.
Exactly.
The more phony they made it,
Yeah.
the more people. So maybe this is what these liberals and that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's get completely outrageous, and maybe the people will. I don't know, but deep down they can't possibly believe.
No.
No, and they know it's not implementable. They know this is not going to happen.
Oh, they do. So if the Democrats took the House, the Senate, the White House, they took everything, they would never implement the Green New Deal, you don't think?
There'd be some form of it,
Yes.
but nowhere near what they're, nowhere near what they're calling. You just have to look at them saying that we only have 10 years. Now it's down to 4, I heard. But
Oh,
OAC and Thing and Bernie have been saying 10 or 12.
We've got to live. We've got 10
Yeah,
or
Michael
12
Moore,
years.
I think, was the latest came out and said we only have 4. So
4 years to live. Okay.
you look at it in 10 years, 10, 12 years, if we're going the way we're going, the temperature will go up another 1/10 of a degree C or
1/10 of a degree.
maybe a little bit more. And somehow that's going to destroy the whole world.
The whole world's going to be destroyed.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how insane. How insane can you be? How can anybody... It's like I say, it's like the wrestling.
Yeah.
The more ridiculous it got,
Yes.
the more people liked it. So maybe this is what they're thinking.
Well, the AOC, one of her campaign guys says really socialism is about taking control of the economy and people's lives. It's got nothing to do with the Green New Deal.
Well, this is interesting you say that because just yesterday at the Davos there in Switzerland, the conference where all the world leaders are, Trump and everybody, one of the big high-tech guys, Silicon Valley guys, has come out now with a program to plant 1.2 trillion trees.
Ah.
They're called these saplings. I guess they're huge carbon sinks. Well, I was online yesterday, and a lot of the comments on the right-wing Breitbart thing were all for this planting. They're saying, yeah, it's a great idea. Why don't we plant? And the lefties aren't so much for it because it doesn't give them any control. It doesn't. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The lefties, Greta and everybody have poo-hawed it and say, it's not a fix. It's not this. It's not that. So it just kind of shows you that could be true. And Trump has come out and praised it and says, yeah, let's plant 1.2 trillion trees.
Right.
You think that the Green would be all for this?
Oh,
the
yeah, suck up
environmental.
all that carbon.
Yeah, the environment, but they've actually, you know what I mean? So this kind of goes to show you, I think you're kind of right. I think that statement's right, that they want it's more about control. But the level of ridiculousness, it's gone, I mean, like I say, to think that in 10, 12 years, the whole world's going to end because it's
Gone up 1/10.
1/10 of a degree.
Yeah.
So instead of 58 Fahrenheit or something, it's 58.1. I mean, usually they go by C now, centigrade.
Yeah.
So instead of whatever it is, this is just absolutely insane.
Yeah. Well, Gore predicted the world was going to end when?
Years ago.
Years
He said the Arctic could be ice-free in 2014.
Right.
He figured it would be He didn't say it will, but he says it could be ice free. Well, if you look how much it's insane. Even in the summer, if you look how much ice is still there, and you have to remember, 10,000 years ago, we were under 2,000 feet of ice here where we are.
Yes.
Ice age.
Right.
So it has been getting warmer and cold, cooler, and this and that. It goes back and forth.
Yes.
But I mean, to think that, this little amount of, whether it be heating or cooling, is going to destroy. It's almost like they think an asteroid's going to hit, or we're going to have a nuclear holocaust.
Yeah.
Even a nuclear holocaust wouldn't destroy the world. There'd be certain things that probably would survive.
Yeah.
But for them to scaremonger,
Yeah.
and I mean, these are supposed to be grown adults, intelligent people.
Yes.
It's mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. And, we can't do a long show on this because you can't even comment on it. It's so crazy. It's so insane. What do you even say to it?
And now, if you deny it, you're a Neanderthal. You're this. You're that. You're blackballed. You're laughed at.
Right.
And they keep saying, the scientific community. For every scientist that says that there's a scientist, that can prove that it's not. I mean, we don't really know, but common sense tells you if it does keep going up at the rate, another 1/10 of a degree or even 15/100ths of a degree in the next 10 years, is that going to cause everything? Of course, that's insane.
Yes, that's insane.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, there's probably advantages and disadvantages,
Right.
but to scare people and say, it just goes to show you how out of control and ridiculous these people are.
Yeah. We talked about this on a previous episode, but has the Earth been, well, I think it has been in its 4.5 billion years, as plush as it is now, maybe a couple times, but the world is plush, right? With trees and...
Well, yeah, because carbon dioxide feeds the plants and trees.
Yes.
Remember from grade 11 biology,
Yeah.
it it gives off oxygen.
Right.
It takes in carbon dioxide and gives off oxygen.
Yes.
So, there's 30% more carbon in the atmosphere than there was 140 years ago. So naturally, it's going to cause a growth spurt.
Yes.
I mean, greenhouses, they pump in 1,000 parts per million in the greenhouses when they build green. That's carbon dioxide.
Yes.
That's the optimal parts that they need, plants.
I
So
see.
really, a lot of people say, well, we only have 400 now. We're really 600 short of now, it doesn't mean you want 1,000 because there's other factors.
Yes.
But this, like I say, yeah, it is. It's more plush now, obviously, because there's more food for the plants.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, they've deforested a lot of areas, but there's a lot of areas where they say it's actually more. They say there are actually more trees now and plants than there's ever been.
In our history.
Yeah,
In the
because
history of
obviously,
the planet,
if you're pumping that much, there is more carbon and there's more. I mean, there's good and there's positive and negatives, but to go to the extent scaring all these kids now.
Yeah, and they have got them scared. I've talked to teachers that say their kids actually have anxiety over it.
Yes, well, you look at that Greta, that girl who's
Yeah.
You could see that she's, first of all, she's not normal.
No.
You can tell when you look at her, she's got that Asperger's or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
She's not a normal kid. And the parents have they're lefties, Swedish from Sweden, and they've obviously brainwashed her,
Yeah.
terrified her to believe that we're all going to go up in It reminds me of when we grew up with religion and they all said you're going to burn in hell and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
All these ridiculous stories.
Yes.
We were terrified of the devil. He had horns and a tail. I mean, it's the same thing. They've replaced organized religion with environmentalism.
Yes.
But these people are just as whacked.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do is ignore them.
Yeah. The other thing we grew up with was learning to jump under the desk. Remember hiding under the desk because Russia was going to attack and nuke us. And you remember those drills? The sirens would go off in the city once in a while to have a drill in case this was going to happen.
Well, I think that was more justified because they had enough nuclear material to destroy the world 30, 40 times over.
Right.
That I could see.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would agree with try to denuclearize because that is obviously.
Right.
Now that's something different.
Right.
That would destroy all the living stuff. I mean, the Earth probably would survive, of course, eventually, and there might cockroaches or something might be able to. But the thing is, that was legitimate.
Right.
Something
right.
like that would destroy almost overnight. You're going to destroy. But this here, a little. I mean, if you went back 140 years ago and told people, 1 degree difference, would you want it cooler or warmer? Everybody would have said warmer to begin with.
Absolutely.
Nobody would have said, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're trying to say now like 0.8 or 9/10 of 1 degree is going to cause, we could probably go 300-400 more years without, and it wouldn't affect anything. But these people, they always have to have something. You'll notice growing up, there was always something they had to scare us with.
Yes.
Pesticides or this or acid rain. Or always, there was
The ozone, the this,
always
the that.
something. The only one that made sense was the nuclear because, like I say,
Yeah, what it could do.
all
yes.
this other stuff, that stuff they used to spray the apples with and everything. There was always something
Right.
they had. They had to have something. It seems like humans have to always have something that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The boogeyman type of thing.
Right.
And I can't believe how the media and everybody has bought into this
It's astounding.
global warming.
Grown adults who
Yes.
are supposedly educated. Well, we know how dumb the media is. I mean, these aren't very intelligent people, obviously. How they get these jobs and how some of them become actually journalists, investigators is beyond my comprehension. But yeah, they've bought into the fear mongering and the whole system.
Yeah. And I'm shocked at a lot of the scientists. I don't know where. I wish somebody can explain to me how this little increase in temperature. Now they say the seas are going to go up. That was another thing.
Yes.
The seas were going to go up 10, 12 feet. They haven't been going up. They've been going up almost nothing.
Right.
Why would guys like Obama pay $15 million for a place on the ocean if he thought it was going to be underwater in 10 years?
Right.
It's obviously this is,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't. I don't think they can't really believe this
Yeah.
stuff.
And as bad as Obama was, he didn't go for anything comparable to this Green New Deal. Although he did set lots of regulations on water, and you see this thing now, dishwashers and taps, and he tried to regulate a lot having to do with the environment. Some of it I think is insane. But even he doesn't believe what they're
Well, it's nowhere near. He's nowhere near with the. And some of the stuff he did was good, but like his fuel mileage, 50 miles a gallon at the year 2023, it was too. They bumped it back to 37 or 40. But the thing is, some of the stuff is good.
Yes.
And Trump says, I believe in clean water, clean air, clean. Okay, that's different than this carbon thing they're talking about.
Right.
That's a little bit different. Now, of course, they have to address the carbon issue at some point.
Yes.
And they're doing it. Like 25 years ago, did we have any windmills? None. Did we have solar panels? None. Do we have ethanol and biofuel? None. Now we've got all this renewable natural gas. Now they got all kinds of stuff
Yes.
that they're doing
Yes.
that eventually they will get to a point where they're carbon neutral, maybe 2050, but maybe later.
Right.
But the thing is, you can't all of a sudden, they're saying 10, 12 years, so they want us all of a sudden to go on something that we don't even have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't fly a 747 on wind and solar.
No.
You can't run cargo ships, which are the size of 4 football fields, on wind and solar. There's something you can't do, rockets and satellite. So there's things you can't do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Now they're starting with the cars, and it's good. They're getting better fuel mileage. They're going to
Absolutely.
the electric
Absolutely.
cars, and this is good.
Absolutely.
They still have years to go before they could, make an electric car where the batteries, the energy used to make the batteries and everything doesn't defeat the purpose.
Right.
Because the Tesla, they say you got to drive 60,000 kilometers just to pay for all the carbon to make the battery. So they still have to work on these things.
Yes.
Which doesn't mean you stop. No, they're working on them.
Yes.
But they want to change things within the next few years. It can't be done.
Can't be done. I mean, we have a way of taking care of things at our own pace when it comes to inventions, new technology, innovation. But when you force it on a society, and the price tag, like we're talking about $140 trillion, and we don't have the technology to do it, we will collapse. We will literally collapse the Western world's economy.
Well, it's like that one Swedish, he's a very good environmentalist, he says it's all virtue signaling, these people. Because he argues the point that we'd be much better off, instead of spending trillions and trillions of dollars to meet these accords, Paris Accord, all these, we could use that money much better in other ways.
Exactly.
So this is what he's saying.
Yeah.
And it's like he said, it's all virtue signaling. He's there, this stuff will do almost nothing that they're proposing.
Oh,
The stuff that they're proposing,
Interesting.
it won't, like, for instance, now the electric cars, the problem is, 75 to 80% of the world's electricity is produced with fossil fuel. Plus the amount of energy to make those cars. At this point, you're going to gain very little. He's saying instead of spending these trillions and trillions of dollars on this, there's other ways you could spend it, including research and development stuff, which would be much more efficient.
right.
But by passing these laws and everything, you're actually going to destroy the economy. It's actually regressive.
Yes.
It's not progressive.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Everything that everything they put forward has to be put to the test.
Yeah.
In other words, when you buy a car now, they should tell you when you buy it how much energy has gone into it,
Right.
where you're charging it, like with city, how much is going, and so in the end, is there any advantage to buying this?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
Or is it all just a scam?
Yeah.
So he uses the word virtual signaling.
Yeah.
He says until we get these systems, until we decarbonize our grid, which means the electricity,
Yeah.
this stuff doesn't make any sense. You got the horse before the cart. You gotta. So it's going to take years. It's not going to be done like they want in 3 or 4 years or 5 years. It's not going to.
No.
You're talking decades.
Decades.
Maybe by 2050.
Yes.
30 years or something, when they then maybe, you know what I mean?
Yes,
They
yes.
might reach carbon neutral. There's other things you can do, like the tree planting as an example. These trillion trees they're talking about, they
Yeah.
say it'll take 2/3 of the carbon that we've put in the atmosphere from day one. So
Right.
they're huge carbon sinks.
Right.
But it has to be tested, and it has to be made sure that it's actually going to work.
Yes.
Otherwise, you could actually be making the problem worse.
Yeah.
But you know what? They come up with these ideas, and all of a sudden they don't. Like hydrogen, the problem with hydrogen is the byproduct of hydrogen is water. So yeah, you don't put any carbon into the atmosphere, but you put water vapor. Well, 98% of the heat trapping gases is water vapor. Even David Suzuki says that would make the problem worse, probably, because of all that. And I mean, not to mention, the manufacturing of the hydrogen, the explosion factor. It's 7 times more explosive than propane. There's so many. The weight of it. There's so many factors.
Right.
So whichever road they decide to go,
Yes.
it has to work.
Right.
But it's like
right.
this environmentalist said. All these people, all they're doing is virtue signaling. They want it now, they want it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's not going to work.
No.
You know what I mean? And right now, it would destroy the economy. If you think of just the oil industry, it's the biggest in the world. It's bigger than the pharmaceuticals. The amount of jobs, the oil rig, the car manufacturer. When you think of all the jobs that are created, you know what I mean? Just the parts in a car.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Well, the electric cars have very few parts. You would lose millions of jobs.
Right.
You know what I mean? You would lose millions of jobs.
Right.
And the effect that would have on the economy. The thing is, if you don't have any money, nothing's any good. If
Right.
you don't have the wealth, you can't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't give people health care and all these things they want.
Right.
And have a thriving economy. You have to have. It's like if they made things last forever and you never had to replace it. It would destroy the economy.
Right. Exactly. That's a good point. Exactly. Yeah.
Like my computer, basically 7 years. It's just the Safari now has started shutting all the sites down because they code it, Apple and that and everything. So at the computer, you get about 6-7 years out of it,
Right.
which is double the time they say of the other computers. It's the longest line. But the thing is, if they didn't do that, if they let me continue using it for 15, 20 years, how are they going to make any money?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. What did you think of regulations by Obama? Did you think they were reasonable, or it definitely affected the economy because Trump's deregulations of these millions of regulations stimulated the economy?
Well, it depends on the regulations. Like, the problem with these people are some of the regulations are so insane,
Right.
you can't build anything or do anything.
Yes.
You're waiting 10 years to be able to build something.
Right.
So it's going to destroy the economy.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying about this green stuff. It's the same thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It has to be planned properly. It has to be done properly. And it's not like we only have a few years. There's plenty of time. Eventually, I won't see it in my lifetime, but eventually we will get to carbon neutral and all this stuff, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Now, why would you say that? I'm baffled by how people our age, for the most part, do not buy into the Green New Deal. We see it for what it is. It's an expense that nobody can afford. All the money in the world couldn't pay for this. But the young people buy into this.
This is always the case.
Why is that?
I said it before, like I say with Churchill, if you're not a liberal by 20, you got no heart. If you're not a conservative by 30, you got no brain. As you get older, you don't necessarily get more intelligent, but you get wiser. You get wiser to the workings of the world. You see how things are. When you're young, you're so gullible, and you see everything through these glass tinted things.
Yes.
You think, you know what I mean? We were the same growing up.
Yeah,
We were
I would
exactly.
say so.
We
Yeah.
were exactly the '60s. We
Yeah.
were part of the '60s generation. End hunger, world, all this. You see all this sort of, and then as you grow older, you get wiser.
Yeah.
Especially when you have to go out and earn a living,
Right.
you start to get wiser, and you see things for the way they are,
Right.
and you realize that there's a reason why. Like we were talking in the last thing about how some countries are successful and some aren't, and this and that. The difference is you see there's a reason why. When you look at one country that's successful and another that's not. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's not. So you become wiser. I don't think there's any, probably not more intellectual, but you become wiser, and this is why the older people tend to have more wisdom.
Yes.
And see things for the way they are.
Right. But what baffles me is, and you talked about this in the last podcast about the importance of education, which I agree with completely. I mean, the acquisition of knowledge and having an understanding of things is critical to evolution and prosperity economically and every other way. But at the same time, we have 92% of professors ranging all ages in our post-secondary institutions feeding this crap to the kids. Have they not woken up? Or have they been that brainwashed? Like, they obviously have an education, but you see, education, you're talking now about wisdom. Wisdom is different than acquiring knowledge. I mean, the problem with professorship is you acquire knowledge in a very narrow field. You can get your doctor on the composition of a water molecule. What does that have to do with life in general? Wisdom has to do with an overall understanding of the way things are and exercising prudence. But, it baffles my mind that as narrow as their scope is, that the post-secondary institutions and its so-called intellectuals, so-called intellectuals, are teaching our young people this stuff that is, to me, is ignorant. How do you explain that?
Well, I would say you have to look at the professors. Now, first of all, we know, I kind of class the professors as like government workers, which of course always support. There's teachers now are striking on the.
Yeah.
So I kind of class them as kind of part of the left-wing agenda. But I'd be interested to see in the engineerings, like where Frankie is. I think you would find most of the professors
Yes.
would not be.
Interesting.
To the far left, like all these other professors.
Especially the ones in disciplines like engineering.
I think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I think in things like engineering and maybe the physical sciences and maybe the hard maths, I think it would be different. When you get to the humanities and arts, it's over, just like you said about journalists.
Yeah.
Being so stupid. Well, journalists are all on the left.
Yeah.
Just about everyone, 95%. So
Yeah.
this is the same thing you get with the universities. All the arts and humanities teachers, you'll find, tend to buy into that agenda. Just the way they are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're constantly fighting. Even like you can see now in the provincial government, they're fighting for it, and the teachers are striking.
Yes.
I mean, it's always been that way.
Yeah.
They've always had that, Marxist sort of ideology.
Yes. Yes.
In those disciplines.
Yes.
Whereas I'm not sure what the statistics are on I would call it the engineering and the hard sciences. I don't know. But I don't think it would be, I think if anything, it probably would be the other way.
Yeah.
Most of them, I think, would realize that it's, it's overblown.
Yeah.
Especially like the global warming.
Yeah. Well, what baffles me is, like you mentioned, teachers on strike now, and this kind of, they lean in the direction of this socialist, Marxist kind of way, and yet they're making $100,000 a year with the best benefit package and drug prescription packages and retirement packages on the planet. They do not see the debt they leave behind, the younger generation. So for all of their socialist, loving, humanitarian, intended economics, they're hypocrites.
Well, of
Because
course
they want to work 8-9 months a year, 6-hour days, collect $100,000. Nobody in society is making this kind of money with an easy degree, and so it's the hypocrisy. And it's the same with the universities in the States, bringing in billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they're making a fortune, and some of their funds have $40-50 billion in it, of these post-secondary institutions. Can you imagine $40-50 billion in their funds in addition to their... And yet they're talking about saving the planet and equity for all, and our young people, what's best for their future. What's best for their future is, how about if you pay off their student loans for them with that $50 billion?
Well, exactly. And this is the whole thing. It comes down to really what does society need?
Yes.
What does society need? In terms of education, well, you need to learn how to read and write.
Yeah.
You need how to do basic math.
Yes.
A lot of people like the Amish and these type of people, Mennonites, they only go to grade 8.
Right.
Then they go farming and they think.
Yes.
When you think about it, yeah, you had to go to school, you learned how to read and write, you learned how to do the basic math. And then after about grade 7 or 8, when you went to high school, really, what did you learn that you used? Now, if you're going to go for an engineer, that's different.
Yes.
If you're going to go for a medical doctor,
Yeah.
stuff like this,
Yes.
veterinarian, whatever, that's different. You have to have a certain, But somebody like myself who went to the trades, it required grade 10. I mean, I think I went to grade 13, but I mean, I don't think you don't really need it. It's mostly just a babysitting social sort of, You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Very
right.
so really.
Absolutely.
So really, what do the other after the certain primary grades? What do really the teachers, except the ones that are teaching courses where, like I say, you're going to have to go to university.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And what do we need? Well, we talked about this before. We need engineers.
Yeah.
Obviously, to design everything.
Right.
Research scientists. We need doctors.
Yeah.
We need accountants. We need architects. There's certain things we need. But 85% of the universities are courses and that disciplines that you don't need.
Yeah.
You need tradesmen much more, and workers than you need those people.
Yes.
A plumber's more important to you than a sociology teacher.
That's for sure.
You know what I mean? Think of when have you ever called a sociology teacher to come and fix something?
Yeah.
So the universities really about 85% of it, and you know what? High school's the same.
Yeah.
When you think about it,
Yeah.
it's more of just basically a daycare, glorified daycare.
Yeah. Well, maybe this explains why you can swindle so many young people into believing in things like the $91 trillion Green New Deal, because they're not really learning what they should be learning about the way basic economics works.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's incredible, like, when you think of our education system, for instance, and let's deal with high school. Like, what have you learned really that you're using now that you needed to learn to? That's what a lot of kids are actually homeschooled now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're actually homeschooled. I don't know if I necessarily believe in that, but they're homeschooled. Most of the stuff we learned in high school, none of the stuff I've used in my life.
Right.
None of it.
Right.
So how do these teachers justify? How do they justify
I have no
these
idea.
ridiculous salary? If anything, I would say the primary teachers should get more than the high school teachers and the professors.
Yeah.
But how do they? I don't. You know what I mean? And these people that go into these programs where they're not going to, they'll go to Harvard, they'll pay $40,000 a year to study philosophy or sociology. What are you going to do with that? You're not employable, except maybe by the government.
Yes.
That's why they support government, and they're always on the left, because you know what I mean. It's for the big spending and the big, you know what I'm
Right.
saying. That's
Absolutely.
why. Because they're not, like I say. Other than that, they're useless.
Yes.
You know, my lowly trade certificate as a construction and maintenance electrician is worth 100 times more than their Harvard degree, which they paid $200,000 for in
Right.
sociology.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I could go anywhere in the world. Everything works electrically, so there's some demand there, and I didn't have to spend any money to get it. These people. I mean, where's the logic?
Yeah.
Where is the logic?
Yeah.
And they always use that ridiculous phrase that, well, you need it to be, critical thinking. I still don't know what this critical thinking is they keep talking about.
No.
It's the only line they can use to justify their worthless degree.
Yeah. I've met more tradespeople that are more critically thinking and use inductive and deductive reasoning better than I have my friends who went to university. It's a mystery. You know what? We're so happy to have Junior with us today, and this brings this program to a close, the Green New Insanity deal. I hope you enjoyed our program today, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Keep in touch. Thanks.